The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Thank you.
It's one of those evenings, Mr. Mallard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was a shocking abuse of process, Mr. Speaker, which came very close to the approach from the minister. And can I say that the Labor Party will be opposing this motion, not because we are opposed to the timing involved in it and the report back, but the oppressive approach of requiring a committee to sit during House sitting time and on a Friday in a week when the House has been sitting. Can I say, Mr. Speaker, I have not heard anywhere in this House today any argument against this bill. I think there's a few questions around the House, and I think probably all sides have questions about the bill. But there is a lot of question around the process. Mr. Speaker, I say to the Minister that if there is a bill around which someone expects agreement and it's coming in under urgency, the practice is normally to supply to each of the parties a copy of the bill, a confidential draft, before the House goes into urgency, so that members have an opportunity to study it, and then so that they're prepared for the debate, and then when they come to the debate, they'll have a view and it's properly made up. The practice, I think, generally last used under Muldoon, of dumping a bill, having it introduced and going straight to the first reading, is something which is not conducive to positive practice in the House and to support. I will reiterate a comment that I have made previously, and that is that as this bill is one which is generally, I think, and likely to be unanimously supported at its later stages, it could well have been a very good candidate to come up on a Thursday morning on an extended sitting and go through in a quarter of an hour or half an hour, rather than having an hour and a half debate on the first reading and another hour or hour and a half on a referral motion. Mr. Speaker, I think it is something which is generally not a good use of House time, and it is an abuse of process. Mr. Speaker, there's not much doubt now that this bill needs to get through by a date in October. In order for there not to be a gap, although I'm not quite sure, what the massive problem would be if there was a small gap between the current law and the new law, and that's something which the Minister, who has the ability to have a reply in this particular debate, might want to explain when it does come to his reply. But I think I can accept that it is logical to have this bill, when it becomes an act, coming into force at the time that its predecessor goes out, and therefore having a shortened select committee process is logical. But I say again to the Minister, he's got the chair of the Commerce Committee, I think, sitting behind him. Is Jonathan Young the chair of that committee? He is, compared to a number of the chairs, and certainly compared to one that I've experienced recently, exceptionally competent. The member, especially when he's got the support of the major opposition parties, and I understand other parties as well, could have called a short period, called for submissions over a short period, had hearings over a day or two, and got the bill reported back inside the time that we're currently obliging the committee to have now. It's not the member knows, Jonathan Young knows that when one works in a cooperative manner, things can go through pretty smoothly, and especially where there's legislation which is widely supported within the House, their process can be truncated. And there's nothing in the standing orders which says that a bill has to take 6 months or 4 months or whatever to get back. If there's cooperation within the committee, there's no reason why it couldn't have been back in 5 or 6 or 8 weeks anyway, with plenty of time to have it passed before the due date without this sort of oppressive motion, Mr Speaker. And I must say that it is important that the bill is looked at pretty carefully. You know, there are certainly some doubts from the people within Moby as to whether the bill should be passed or not, although I think it's fair to say, given the current direction or on occasions lack of direction, the wild free market approach of Moby, then I'm not sure that we should rely that heavily on an impact, a regulatory impact statement that they have made, Mr Speaker. But it will be an interesting part of the Select Committee process to have the officials interrogated on that and to see if there's any deeper rationale behind what they're saying than what has come out in the regulatory impact statement. Because frankly, Mr Speaker, it sort of reeks a bit of ideology, the sort of ideology that permeated through the Treasury in the 1980s and the 1990s and appears to have spread into parts of Moby. I think it's fair to say not into all parts of Moby, but it was certainly the sort of free market approach that has caused problems for our economy and problems across quite a wide range of areas, Mr Speaker. I hope that the Select Committee in its hearings has the good sense to call in the New Zealand Motion Picture Industry Council. It's an organisation which is an industry group of both the major and the independent exhibitors and distributors. Are a group which, and it's fair to say that there are, you know, in our lifetime, there's a much. It's almost like we're back where we were, you know, when I was a kid, where the local theatre was run by someone locally, and it wasn't part of a massive chain, and it wasn't a big multiplex with 17 theatres, most of them with uncomfortable seats. But we're getting back now to the relatively small and local approach, but there are still some of these big ones, even though they are failing. If I was that member, I'd just be quiet on this particular subject. I think it's not one that he should interject on, Mr Speaker. I think it's fair to say that the most movie theatres now, the more modern ones, Mr Speaker, are relatively small. And in fact, the one that I spent some time with in Taupo, I think only had 11 seats in one of the theatres, and one of them was on the other side of a pillar. So it is fair to say that there is a range, and bringing together these different groups, Mr Speaker, in a group like the New Zealand Motion Picture Industry Council means that you can get a united voice and one which I'm sure will be interested in talking to the committee. I think it's probably fair to say that they will tell the committee that this legislation does not go far enough, that they would like the sunset period to be further away, and they would like the 5 months held at 6 or 9 or some figure closer to that, and it will be interesting to hear the logic. But having said that, Mr Speaker, I do accept that the Minister, in bringing the bill to the House, has worked a compromise. He's shown that he has been able to listen, and I hope that the Select Committee process is such that continues to be the case. Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker.
I call the Honourable Member Kevin Haig.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou anō.